So according to Michigan State University, technically plants can't tell the difference between a liquid and a granular fertilizer. They both have their own specific uses and applications. In this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about kind of the pros and cons of each one, the certain applications they're going to be used in, and my preferred way to fertilize pretty much all of my plants in my garden. Also, make sure you guys hang out till the end of the video. I'm going to share with you guys my favorite fertilizer product that I use. Again, I use it on literally everything in my garden, in-ground, containers, raised beds. So yeah, make sure you guys hang out till the end. And this video isn't necessarily to tell you guys which fertilizer or what type of fertilizer is best. This is just to better inform you guys. You know, everyone's going to have their different applications, different uses for all kinds of fertilizer. This is just to better help inform you guys to make the right decision on which type of fertilizer is going to be best for you, best for your context, and what you're going to be doing with it. And today's video is going to be speaking specifically to the context of growing fruits and vegetables in your backyard. You know, you've got all different kinds of applications, large scale agriculture, small scale, you've got fertilizer for your lawn, all different kinds of things. So again, we're talking about growing food in the backyard garden today. There's something to keep in mind. You know, if you've got good quality soil to start with before you even start fertilizing, it's going to significantly reduce the amount of fertilizer that you're even going to have to use. Start with a good quality, rich in organic matter compost, you know, something well broken down, and you'll have to use way less fertilizer. So let's get right into pros and cons for both of these types of fertilizers. We'll start with pros for liquid fertilizers. One of the big pros for using a liquid fertilizer is that the nutrients are going to be immediately available for the plant. You know, when you're applying a liquid fertilizer, you are applying that liquid directly to that soil. That liquid is going directly to the roots of that plant, or you can even apply it in a foliar fashion. You can spray it directly on the leaves. So when you're doing that, you are not having to wait for those nutrients to be readily available. And this is a really good way to alleviate mid to late season deficiencies in a plant. If you've got a plant that's looking pretty sickly and you're able to properly diagnose what the issue is, this can be a really good way to get the proper nutrients directly to a plant that's going to need it right away, as opposed to having to wait for a granular fertilizer to start to kick in. So another one of the pros of using a liquid fertilizer is going to be the uniformity of application. So when you're using a liquid fertilizer, you're getting the exact same ratio of nutrients in every single drop. And for example, with a granular fertilizer, I'll show you guys. So something like this is going to be a granular fertilizer, and if you guys can see, each of those individual granules in there are all going to have different nutrients in it. Those are, I would say, the two biggest pros for liquid fertilizer. You know, the big benefit to using a liquid fertilizer is that it's going to be something you can give that's going to be immediately available to a plant. So again, if you've got a deficiency in a plant, you're going to be able to take care of it really quickly. So that's a big takeaway. That's kind of the benefit to consider with liquid fertilizers. So let's talk about some of the downsides for liquid fertilizers. So again, with liquid fertilizers, those nutrients are going directly to those plants. When that happens, that nutrient uptake is usually very short-lived. And since that fertilizer is getting directly absorbed immediately into that plant, it's going to run through it very quickly. And it will usually need to be reapplied very shortly after if that's solely what you're relying on as a fertilizer. And in my experience, this can sometimes stress the plant out more than it's going to help it. You know, if you're giving and taking nutrients, that can cause a lot of stress on it. A granular is going to give it a nice consistent flow of nutrients. That's definitely one of the biggest downsides, is that it can actually stress a plant out if you do have a nutrient deficiency. And with that, you're going to need to reapply fertilizer way more times throughout the season than you would with a granular. So that's resulting in more time, labor for the kind of the similar result. So let's talk about the benefits of using a granular fertilizer. I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. I am totally biased. I have had way more success with using granular fertilizer in the past. If you pick out the right granular fertilizer, you can literally use it on pretty much everything in your garden. Using granular fertilizer is going to be a much more quick and efficient way at the beginning of the season to quickly fertilize all of your plants, as opposed to having to go through everything with a liquid fertilizer. You're literally just taking the cup, you're taking your fertilizer, and you're sprinkling it all through your beds. So just ease of application, it's going to be so much more efficient and yeah, just a less of a pain in the butt, really. Also, one of the big advantages to using a granular fertilizer is it's generally much less expensive than liquid fertilizer. In my experience, I've been able to find 50-pound bags of even organic fertilizer in like the $10 to $15 range. There's some liquid fertilizers out there, kind of like this one I'll show you guys. So like this one, Miracle-Gro Performance Organics, something like this can run you like $7, $8, $9, $10, $11. And I mean, you can get a decent amount of use out of it, but again, you can find 50-pound bags of organic granular fertilizer in like the $10 to $15 range. And for the backyard beginner gardener, that 50-pound bag can probably last you years depending on how many vegetables you're growing. So that's something to keep in mind. In my experience, way more cost effective to use a granular fertilizer. Also, in my experience, granular fertilizers are way easier to store. Generally, granular fertilizers, you don't have to worry about the temperature a whole lot. Sometimes with the liquid concentrate fertilizer, the ingredients will kind of settle out on each other and separate, and they can kind of do that after time too if you let them sit for a really long time. Again, not a huge disadvantage to liquid per se, but it is nice with granular fertilizer that you can just keep it stored and don't have to worry about it, you know, getting damaged or losing its effectiveness over time. Also, real quick, if you guys are getting value out of this video, make sure you hit the like button down below. It'll help this video get out to more beginner gardeners. And another benefit to using granular fertilizer is it's going to be way harder to overdose your plants with a granular organic fertilizer than it is going to be with a liquid. So with those liquid fertilizers, for the beginner gardener, some of those instructions can be really confusing. I'm speaking to you from experience. Some of them, when you're just starting out, you have no idea what they're talking about as far as like how many of those crystals you're supposed to put in per gallon of water and all that stuff. So that's one thing that I love about using a granular organic fertilizer, and the key being organic. If you get a granular organic fertilizer, you can basically just load that stuff in. I mean, I guess it's not impossible to overdose with a granular organic. It's just way harder. Again, with an organic fertilizer, it's occurring naturally, it's not synthetic, and you don't have to worry about like specific dosing. I literally just go through with the red Solo cup just like this and sprinkle it in, and I'm pretty carefree about it, honestly. I mean, I'll give them a good amount of fertilizer, but I don't stick to any specific dosing or, you know, specifications like that. And another nice thing about granular fertilizer is that it's slow release. So with granular fertilizer, those little balls over time will break down. So that's something to keep in mind, is granular fertilizer can sometimes take a little while to start to break down and become available to your plants. Sometimes it's weeks, months before that fertilizer breaks down, but that's a benefit because you're not stressing your plants out with flooding them with a ton of fertilizer all at one time. You get a nice, slow, steady release. Sometimes your fertilizer application can last you through the entire growing season. So that's a huge benefit, is that you're not stressing your plants out by flooding them with a ton of nutrients. So let's talk about the downsides of granular fertilizer. There's not a whole lot. Again, I'm kind of biased. I think granular fertilizer is pretty awesome for most stuff, but there are a couple things just to be aware of. With granular fertilizer, again, it's a slow release, so sometimes it can take weeks, sometimes months to become readily available to a plant. So that's just something to be aware of. Now again, it depends on the context that you're using your fertilizer in. If you're in a situation where you've got some plants that are looking sickly and you've been able to properly identify that as a nutrient deficiency, then you're probably going to want to use a liquid fertilizer. You're going to want something that you're going to be able to give to that plant that's going to be immediately available. If you've identified a nitrogen deficiency, you're going to want to be able to give it a good amount of nitrogen with a liquid fertilizer. So that is something to keep in mind, that obviously you're not going to want to give a plant that needs something right away granular fertilizer, because it's going to be too late by the time the nutrients get to it, and your plant will probably already be dead by then. You could maybe call this a con, but more something just to be aware of. With granular fertilizer, it requires moisture for it to become readily available to the plant. So with granular fertilizer, again, I'll show you guys, you know, we've got all these little granules in here. When this comes into contact with moisture, that's how this starts to break down over time, and that's how it becomes readily available to your plant. And you basically just need to be aware of the fact that you're going to need to be watering that fertilizer in continuously for it to become effective, but you're going to be doing that anyway. You're going to be watering your plants on a regular basis. So again, just something to be aware of. So my favorite fertilizer that I use for literally everything in my garden, I'll show you guys, is this. So this is Replenish. It's called Replenish 343. It's an organic granular fertilizer, and I'm going to show you guys the ingredients on an empty bag so I don't have to hold up a 50-pound bag of fertilizer. But yeah, it's a 343. So we've got 3 nitrogen, 4 phosphorus, and 3 potassium. It's OMRI listed, which means it's organic certified, which is really, really cool. And you can kind of just see the breakdown: nitrogen 3%, phosphate 4%, potash 3%, and then it's even got calcium, micronutrients, which is really cool. So this is an insanely cost-effective, really nice all-around fertilizer. That bag, this 50-pound bag, costs $10 at my local farm supply store. I think it's more of a locally available fertilizer, which is, I know, kind of a bummer to you guys, but I did find one on Amazon that is essentially the same thing. It's a 343 organic granular fertilizer, and it's even made from the same ingredients. This fertilizer is made from chicken litter, which basically is just like it's like chicken droppings, feathers, that kind of thing, chicken bedding. So it's a really nice, mild, organic granular fertilizer. And I use it on literally everything. I use it in the in-ground beds, I use it in the containers, and then I use it in the raised beds. It's awesome. It's low dose, it's granular, it's organic, so I can load it on if I want to, and it's not going to burn or kill any plants. And I usually just have to apply it 1 or 2 times a year, and it's super cost effective. I mean, $10 for a 50-pound bag for the average beginner gardener, that will probably could last you years. I mean, that could last you like 5 years possibly, depending on how much you're growing. And I'll put an Amazon link down below in the description of this video to the one that I found that was pretty much exactly like this. Again, it's a 343. It's OMRI listed. It's organic granular fertilizer, and it's made from the same thing, chicken litter. So I'll put that down in the video description below so you guys can check that out. Another really nice thing about using a fertilizer like this is it's really easy to up your dosage. So for example, if you're using, say the space that you're using fertilizer for calls for 1 cup of granular fertilizer, if you need to double that and you need a 686 fertilizer, you just use 2 cups. So it makes for a really easy way to increase the amount of fertilizer you're using, since the ingredients in fertilizer is measured by volume. Again, you're able to just easily turn this into a 686 if you need to, or you can double that. You know, you can do exactly whatever you want to with the ingredients. So again, as you guys can see, I'm definitely biased. I love my low dose organic granular fertilizer. Again, for the context I'm growing in, it just works really well here. It's really cost effective. I am really curious to hear your guys' experiences with fertilizer though. If you've been gardening for a while, do you guys use granular? Do you guys use organic? Do you guys use liquid? What has worked well for you guys? I'm curious to hear specifically what fertilizers you guys work and how they've worked for you. And again, I know farmers that use liquid fertilizer and it works really well for them. Again, just for how we're growing, what we're doing in the backyard, it just works really well. But yeah, you guys comment down below, tell me what you think about fertilizers. Don't be afraid to tell me I'm wrong. You know, everyone's got their own uses, own contexts. Let me know what you guys think. And again, I've got a link down in the description below for you guys for the fertilizer that's basically the exact same thing as what I have, so you guys can check that out. And make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We've got tons more gardening how-tos and tutorial videos coming out. If you guys enjoyed the video, I'd super appreciate a thumbs up. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Just comment down below, let me know what y'all thought, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.